DreAllDay.com.
Before we start, please like and comment on this video so I can get your feedback. Also, click that subscribe button so you can get all the new content I'm dropping on this channel. And the free book, the mental handbook, physical book, Work on Your Game University, just take care of the shipping and handling, send this right to your doorstep. Let's get started. We fucked in his bed quite dangerous. I'm in his ass while they play against the Utah Jazz. Everybody, Dre Baldwin, DreAllDay.com. We are back. 2017 NBA season previews. The Utah Jazz. They need to change that name. The Utah Jazz. But anyway, we're going to talk about what this team got, how they did last year. They won 40 games. This is a respectable team. They collapsed down the stretch when they should have made the playoffs. They collapsed down the stretch, didn't make the playoffs. Let Kobe get a highlight on them by scoring 60 in his last game. Lost that game even though they had already knew they were out of the playoffs before the game started. Who knows they actually knew. But they were out of the playoffs before the game started. One thing I like about the Utah Jazz is Quinn Snyder. He is a great coach. He came from the college ranks, came to the league, and is doing pretty well. Won 40 games with this team last year who doesn't have a bona fide superstar. I think they need one if they're going to go any further. I don't think who they have now, there is at least the way they played last year, there's not a bona fide superstar. What they built around last year, I think is going to have to improve. Because right now they're like a great team overall, but they need a higher level something if they're going to actually be a competitive, compete for something in the Western Conference. Right now they're first round fodder. They would have made the first round, they would have got their ass kicked pretty quick. Maybe won one game, maybe win one game in the first round of the Western Conference. This year, maybe win one game again, unless there's actually, no, let me not even say that. Let me look through this roster. We're going to talk about this roster, then we're going to say what I think they're going to do this year. Utah Jazz, looking at this team from last year, Alec Burks, great shooting guard, only 25 years old, great size. Dante Exum, he was injured, right? Missed the whole season. He's only 21 still, point guard, 6'6". He was, I guess, the Ben Simmons before Ben Simmons from Australia. Derek Favors is still only 25. He's been in the league forever. He came in the league, I believe, after his first year in college. He's still only 25, and he's rounded into a pretty solid player. And I also think with Derek Favors, he is who he is. He's one of those players who just is who he is. I don't think he's going to make any huge differences. There's not going to be any huge differences in his game over the next 5 years. He pretty much is the player that he is. Who else? Rudy Gobert, the Stifle Tower. I think that's the best name, the best nickname. The Stifle Tower, not the French Rejection. The French Rejection is okay, but the Stifle Tower is the best. 7 feet 1. He's still 24 years old, and the guy, damn, covers some space. He protects that rim. Gordon Hayward is only 26. Another guy, I feel like he's been in the NBA forever. 26 years old. He's been the superstar of this team since they traded Darren Williams. I don't think this team's going far with Gordon Hayward as their best player. I really don't. Even though, I believe he signed a offer sheet with the Bobcats or the Hornets, Hornets, a year or two ago, and then Utah matched it to keep him on the team and are paying him, the highest salary on the team. I believe it's the max deal he's under. Gordon Hayward, you're not winning a playoff series if Gordon Hayward's the best player on your team. Let me put it that way. Can you make the playoffs with Gordon Hayward as your best player? Maybe. I mean, he was the best player last year, and they didn't make the playoffs. They collapsed down the stretch, and he was the best player. So can you make the playoffs? They're right there, so I think, yes, you can. Will you? I don't know. We're going to get to that in a minute, but are you doing anything? Are you competing, really, if Gordon Hayward is the best player on the team? My answer is no, you're not. Can Gordon Hayward be the second or third best player on the team? Yes. On a team that contends? Yes, he can. Depends on who the first player is, but yes. So I'm not saying he's not a good basketball player, but you're not going that far with Gordon Hayward as your best player. George Hill, 30 years old. George Hill is a solid player. Everybody who he's played for says they like him. Greg Popovich hated to trade him. He traded him to get Kawhi Leonard, the draft pick that was Kawhi Leonard. He was already drafted, but to get to Kawhi, they traded George Hill to Indiana. George Hill played great in Indiana. Now he's going to play for the Utah Jazz. I think he's a great player to add to that team because he's good enough to still be the best point guard on this team. I think he is the best point guard on this team, and he's been around long enough, once competitive teams long enough, he can help mentor these young guys, even though he's only 30. He's not that old. Rodney Hood, another young guy, 23 years old in the backcourt. Joe Ingles, I think you're going to get what you're getting from him. Joe Johnson, 35 years old. I forgot about them signing Joe Johnson. I think he's a good veteran to help mentor the young guys. I don't know how much Joe Johnson has left in the tank skill-wise, but I think he's a good guy to mentor the young guys, work hard against them, make them work hard in practice, and then get on the court and maybe give you a few minutes every now and then to help the team. But I think mostly Joe Johnson's going to be on the bench. he should be, because this team needs to develop their young guys. Who else? Trey Lyles. I believe Trey Lyles is a guy who's been underutilized on his team, and I don't know how or when he's going to get his chance with the logjam that they have in the front court. Trey Lyles needs to get a chance to go out and do his thing, and I think he has a ton of talent. He hasn't really had a chance to show what he can do, just because there's so many other players in his position in the way. Shelvin Mack, and yeah, that's it. They got a few other guys. I know this is a longer roster than what they're actually going to have when the season starts. So they got a few training camp guys. Not everybody's going to make the team. But looking at this team overall, at the power forward position, oh yeah, they picked up, who did they pick up? I just saw his name. Boris Diaw, 34 years old center, great pickup. Boris Diaw, George Hill, Joe Johnson, those are three great pickups. I love the Boris Diaw pick. This guy's won a championship. He's been on veteran teams. He's been a winner. He knows what it feels like to be on teams that are contending and winning. I believe his presence will help this team, his veteran presence, and also on the court, however much he plays, he's a very unselfish player. He likes to move that ball and pass it. He's a French guy, so I'm sure the fact that Rudy Gobert is on the team factored into them picking him up. So great pickup. And also even Dante Exum, who's not French, but he's international player. I think that helps with this team. Now looking at their logjam in the front court, they got Derek Favors at the power forward position. You already have Trey Lyles at the power forward. Joe Johnson is a small ball power forward. Rudy Gobert is the center. And you have, actually that's it. Those are all their big guys. The thing is, I think Trey Lyles really deserves to be starting. But he needs to play power forward. He's not a small forward. He needs to play power forward. Joe Johnson, I'm not concerned with Joe Johnson taking too many minutes away. But you got Favors, you got Gobert, and you got Trey Lyles. They all should be starting. I think if a move needs to be made, it got to be Derek Favors. Rudy Gobert ain't going nowhere. You don't trade a guy like Rudy Gobert. And Trey Lyles at 20 years old, you're not trading him. He hasn't even gotten a chance to show his game and develop his game in the league yet. Derek Favors is the guy that got to go. He's only 25, so he has value. He can get you 10 rebounds a game. Derek Favors, I believe, has to go if Trey Lyles is going to blossom and show his game for the Utah Jazz. Now, I don't know what the Jazz's plans are overall, but I think that is absolutely what has to happen. Now, as far as at the point guard position, they did have Trey Burke. He's no longer on the team. Yeah, I think Trey Burke got traded to, I don't even remember who he got traded to, but I know he got traded. So he's out of there. Dante Exum's going to have his chance to run the show at the point guard position. George Hill's going to run the show. And Shelvin Mack's a solid backup guy. Dante Exum, I think, is going to get his chance. If he's healthy coming into training camp, he's going to get a chance to earn some playing time. I think Shelvin Mack should be the third point guard, and Dante Exum should be second behind George Hill as he develops. And again, he has to, of course, get on the court and get his rhythm back after missing the entire season. I believe he tore his ACL. And somebody can correct me what his injury was, but I know he was injured. As far as this Utah Jazz team going into the 2016-2017 season, winning 40 games last year, adding Joe Johnson, George Hill, and Boris Diaw, I think helps mentor the young guys, veteran presence. You got two of those guys, Boris and George Hill, who I think will play a good amount of minutes. I don't think Joe Johnson's going to play that many minutes, but I think he's a good mentor for the team. You got a solid coach in Quinn Snyder who coached them last year. Red flags is that they collapsed last season down the stretch when they should have made the playoffs, but they collapsed and lost their opportunity to make the playoffs. Other thing is that they don't have a star player who can say, give me the fucking ball, get out the way. Gordon Hayward is not that guy. Another thing is that they have too many players at that front court position and that front court area with Favors, Trey Lyles, and Gobert. All three of those guys should be playing. One of them got to go. I think it must be. I think even look any way you slice it, it got to be Derek Favors who goes. And then also at the guard spot, if Dante Exum is as good as he was billed to be before he came into the NBA, we won't know until he gets a chance to play. George Hill is like in his prime point guard. I don't know how Exum is going to get his shot. They might put him off the ball, but I think he plays better on the ball. So we'll see what ends up happening. They got a few question marks, but I think a solid coach and a solid roster, young guys who are on their way up, and they got the good veterans in place. This team makes the playoffs. I think they make the playoffs as a 7th or 8th seed. They will get their asses kicked in the first round. They will get their asses kicked pretty good in the first round, but it'll be good for them. It'll be good for their development to get their ass kicked in the first round. But they're not going any further than that if they make the first round. And I think if everyone stays healthy, they are first round. They are first round fodder is what I call teams like that. Teams that are going to lose in the first round. But it's good for this team. It's good for a young team to get into the first round. Next team we're going to talk about will be So that's it. That's all I got to say for the Utah Jazz. I think they won 40 games last year. I think they can win 42 games. 42 games to get you in the playoffs in the West. Last year it did. I think they can win 42 games. I think they can even get up to 43, maybe even 44. If they stay healthy and the veterans mesh with the young guy, I think they can win 44, maybe 44, 45 games. They can do it. But I think 42, 43 will get them into the playoffs. Even if they do that, they'll get in the first round and lose in the first round. Next team we're going to talk about is the Washington Wizards. That's an interesting conversation. Everybody, I will see y'all tomorrow with the next NBA season preview 2016-2017. Your comments, your feelings, your opinions. Leave them down in the comments. You already know that. Work on your game. DreAllDay.com.